Good morning, lovelies. Well, we'll see if my Wi-Fi holds. It always seems like on lives that I always have some disconnect here. It never makes it all the way through. So we'll see if we can do that this time with this live. Good morning. We'll have our talk this morning just about feeling confused, being anxious, having a lack of direction, maybe some confusion, all of that. And so now what? And before we begin that talk, I've really committed to my self-care routine. And I think that really is the core ingredient to moving forward after narcissistic abuse, divorce, and any life shifts. And I'm going to do a live here in the next couple of days about the importance of self-care. And I have a ginger, turmeric shot here with some juice. So I've been doing these now every single day. And I'm never going to give up my coffee. Like Drama Llama, got to have coffee. And I am a health and wellness person, personal trainer, and a nutritional therapist. And I'm never going to give up coffee. So I work around my 1 cup of coffee that I have every day, and I work that into my routine. And that's really important. If there's something that's going on in your life that you really enjoy, we find a workaround around it. So this is mine, coffee, and I'm never going to give it up. Like Rick Astley, I'm never going to give it up. But anyway, this is a really, really good conversation to be talking about feeling lost and uncertain and confused and not having a sense of direction. And that is something that comes with healing with narcissistic abuse. It comes with healing after divorce. We've navigated our life for such a long time with a partner, and there's a fork in the road and things, we separate and we're left on this other fork all by ourselves. So it is natural to feel lost. And it is natural to feel uncertain, to feel a little anxious and lacking that direction that you used to have when you were married. And I just want to say, I see you. I mean, this has been something that I've been navigating since I left in 2019. And just with all of that, it has some fits and starts. You do get aligned, and then some new things come in. You learn more about yourself, and then there's a little period of uncertainty, and then, you get some more clarity. And I don't know if this feeling ever really goes away. It's just how to handle it and work through it. And, I'm kind of a science nut. And I read somewhere that sharks, they always have to keep moving. And if they're ever still, they're going to die. They need to have the water going through their gills. And one of the things, I think it's the same thing here with us in our life, that we need to keep moving. We need to keep trying things, and we need to just continue to be in a trial and error period where we're going to get semblance of what really fits us and what doesn't. And it's kind of like going shoe shopping. You try on a pair of shoes. Do they fit? No. Then you go and try something else, or a dress, or a top, a pair of jeans. Oh my God, jeans. Those are like the hardest things in life, to find a pair that fits you. Yeah, and I have to go out with a glass of wine before I go try on jeans. But, you can have 20 or 30 pairs of jeans in the fitting room and it doesn't fit. But that doesn't mean that you can't wear jeans. That doesn't mean that there isn't a pair for you. You just haven't found the pair in that particular store. And anyway, my favorite pair of jeans, they're no longer around. I think they were 505 Levi's, and I just loved them. And anyway, I don't know what pair of your favorite jeans there are, but I think in this period in life is taking on this perspective of, yes, I might be feeling lost and a little bit anxious and lacking direction and a little bit of confusion. But at the same time, I have all this experience in my life up until now, and I know a lot more what I know. And now I just need to kind of be like life, try on a bunch of things, try on a bunch of pair of jeans, or maybe you don't even like jeans anymore. I don't know. I love jeans. But, maybe you like wearing dresses now or whatever, and you didn't know that about yourself. So getting into this trial and error. And I just want to say that I see you, and, you guys seeing this last year with the coaching organization, me walking through all of that this last year. There was a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear that was going on as far as that. And, I got a sense of clarity that this coaching organization wasn't the best thing for me. Even though it worked for other people, it wasn't the best thing for me. It actually caused a trauma response and I wasn't aware of it. So now I'm pretty clear on when those feelings come up, what I need to be doing, but I wouldn't have had that experience if I didn't try it in the first place. And that was a very expensive lesson, but either way. But, I just want to offer you 6 opportunities today to think about some of this topic in a different way. So the first one is, sometimes we lack clarity. The first one is we lack clarity. We're not sure what our goals are. We're not sure what our values are. We're not sure what our standards are, because all of that's kind of shifted in from when we were married or when we were in relationship with this toxic person, or we're not even sure of our purpose in life. But that can all, with some self-reflection, that could all, get into alignment pretty fast. And, what are your strengths? What are your interests? What are your values? It's a good time to reevaluate all of that, especially as we're going out dating and looking for a potential partner that will fit us that much better. That we really need to know what our values are. What is it that's really important to us? And if we don't have clarity on that, how can we have clarity on that when we go out dating? I mean, that's kind of like we would go with just about anybody. Like, how would you know that a date would actually fit you if you don't really know what that is, what your values are and what your standards, how you're going to be treated? So, that's something that really needs to be identified. What are your values? What are your standards? What is your beliefs and what's very important to you? Do you have a top 3 things that are very important in a relationship? And when I got married to the ex, I had one. It was being thoughtful. And that really didn't work out so well, because I think that, with the love bombing phase, there was a lot of, oh, he's very thoughtful. Oh, of course, put a check in the block, all that stuff. And for me, this next time around, I'm very confident that it is somebody who is very secure in who they are. I know how I want to be treated this time. I want to have good communication. Hi, Mindy. Hi, Jamie. I really want to have somebody who has good communication skills, and that'll manifest when we're out on dates. Are we able to have conflict? Are we able to talk through things? Is this person empathetic? Are they compassionate? So I have a list of things that are important to me for this next person who will come into my life at some point in time, but we need to know what those are. And, when we set small, sustainable goals, that will really provide us a sense of direction. We don't have to eat the whole pie all at once. We can break it down into smaller buckets so that we really get that sense of feeling. And I think it's also feeling in our mind, body, spirit, like really giving our chance to not just be in our thinking brain, but also be in our heart and also in our emotions, that everything feels good with that. And we're not doing it with sexual tension that's there, that there is a lot of mind, body, spirit alignment. So lack of clarity can be really overcome with some deeper self-reflection about where you want to go, what your values are, what your beliefs are, what your standards are, and where you want to go in life. Like I know for me, I probably would not be very good with somebody who is a gamer. And, that lifestyle is very sedentary, and I like to go to the gym, and I like to go for walks, and I like to paddleboard, and I like to go bike riding, and I like to do little 3Ks. And I really want to find a partner that I can do some of those things with. We don't have to totally match up. So I've really had a long time thinking about that. Hi, Wendy. About that too. And I probably won't do well with somebody who is all into like classic cars, like that's their life. That's just not something. I like it every once in a while, but that's just not something. And so again, if there's that match with that partner, would they be okay if I did not do their thing with them? That's a really good conversation to have, for me. But for me, I really do want to have a recreation partner that I could be able to do things with. So I'm very clear on that. So number 2 is life transitions. Again, after divorce, after, narcissistic abuse and getting back on your feet, like that is like a rug, like you're walking and this rug just gets pulled out from underneath you. You don't know who you are. You don't know what happened to you. You are just hit upside the head with financial insecurity. There may be some betrayals. There's just this waking up to who you were in relationship with as a partner and who you were as a partner in this relationship too. We all come with other, skills or inabilities or places where we need growth. Like, for me, I was very codependent and I didn't know how to communicate, how to escalate communication, and how to set consequences. I sure was talking about things, and we did have a counselor, but nothing ever really changed in a positive way where I needed to go when we were married. So, healing from narcissistic abuse and divorce can be a huge life transition. I mean, you usually have legal challenges, you're dealing with the divorce, you're having to pay for all of that. You may have a career change that's happening with all of that. Again, psychologically, that's like the biggest, the biggest challenge is, how did I get into all of this? And, how am I going to get out of all this? How am I going to learn and grow with all of that? You've got real estate that was shared. You've got joint checking accounts. You've got all of that. You've got a house. You've got probably children. You have friends. You have family. You have support system. So, healing after divorce and narcissistic abuse is peeling all that away. And that can really lead you to instability. And for me, I was no contact, and I basically stepped away from a whole life that I had for 20 years. I have one set of mutual friends, and they don't share information, beyond all that. And I actually did wonderfully have a chosen mother that I have through all of that. That was the life blessing with that, is that I have a chosen mother and those one set of friends. But other than that, I have closed the door on a life of 20 years, 25 years with my ex. Closed the door on it and moved beyond it. And there wasn't a lot of support, and there was a lot of change that was involved in all of that. And I felt very adrift. So if that's you, I see you. It's very destabilizing to be in that cycle of being lost. And when you're peeling away the, going through the divorce, or you own a business together, or you're working together, there's so many complexities that come with a breakup with narcissistic abuse. And then even like, my hat's off to any of you who have children with the ex-spouse, and now you have to navigate life with this toxic ex-spouse and the children. So my hat is completely off to you. I'm very fortunate that I did not have children, and that we are completely no contact to this point now, after we've been divorced and, separated everything. So that can be a very hard transition to get to that point, to adjust to new circumstances of living on your own. Like, you're living in an apartment where you had a home and now you're living in an apartment, and now you used to cook for four or two and now you're cooking for one. So there's a lot of life challenges with all of that. And, the car and having, I think single people really bear the brunt of paying more than when you're in relationship. When two people are sharing a home and you have family, it's not as expensive as living on your own with all of that. So all of those different things that I just talked about can really leave you adrift in your circumstances when healing from narcissistic abuse, divorce, and life shifts. And I understand that those transitions are very difficult. And, we aren't going to be, I think we have to release the expectation that within a short period of time that we're going to get back to normal. I mean, I'm just saying, for me, it's going on 6 years in July of 2024 when I have left the relationship. And little by little, I've gotten more clarity. Like, I know now how to cook for myself and not buy too much, or, not eating all the processed food. It's taking me almost, 5.5 years to get to understanding how to feed myself and getting to a point of enjoying food. Because for me, I really like cooking for people, and I know I'm worthy, but I didn't enjoy cooking for just myself. Like, I like being able to sit across the table. Like, for me, eating is social, and I enjoy having conversations and connecting and sharing food profiles and all of that. So it's taken me 5.5 years to get to this point of, okay, and now I have a gas range, which is awesome. I love cooking now, but it's taken me that. And so each one of those things, adapting from being married and in a home and all of that, we're little by little, it comes in layers as we move forward in this process. And not everything, it's not like poof, 6 months, we're going to be able to be back to normal. These things can take a while, and each one of us is different with all of that. And I do want to caution each and every one of you. I don't know if you've heard about prolonged grief disorder. And I do believe that healing from narcissistic abuse, there is a longer cycle of grief and depression that comes from these type of relationships, where you're going to be sad, you're going to be bluesy, you're going to be in grief and despair because your whole world is upside down. Your mind, body, and spirit, you have been betrayed in so many different ways, and it's so hard to really come to terms with what happened. And there is prolonged grief disorder is when you have been in a very sad, bluesy state, especially after narcissistic abuse, for more than 1 year. And, I think that this is just a hallmark. That is like a rubber stamp of narcissistic abuse. So if that's you, I've seen you, I've been there. I've never known a depression this deep and a grief cycle. I have never been through anything in my life that has been so destabilizing as healing from narcissistic abuse. Narcissistic abuse recovery is really hard. And I just want to say, I see you, and the process to crossing over your bridge to your next life is going to be adapting to change in small incremental buckets. And it's just going to be gradual. And sometimes you need help along the way. That might mean partnering up with a mental health counselor. That might mean having a support group, either through church. That might mean having a ladies group with Bible study where you have somewhere to go and people can love on you. Those are all things that I have done and I have found to be very helpful. The social element is very dynamic and can play a big role in that bridge from before to narcissistic abuse recovery and divorce recovery is the social element. And I think a lot of us go into isolation, and it can really prolong the healing cycle. And I know we don't want to go out. I mean, you're like, oh my God, like I got to brush my teeth. I got to take a shower. I got to like go be social with people, and I'm sad. And I know I didn't do it very well. And that's something that I'm really trying to turn on now. But it really does mean that there's gradual changes that happen, and it is okay to be sad and bluesy and have that grief because your whole world has turned upside down. And I just want to say again, I know where you're at, and I've been there myself, and it's a hard road. And sometimes you have to reach out for help with all of that. That could be in a lot of different ways. That could be getting a personal trainer at a gym. That could be having a mentor. That could be in a church situation. There could be a mentor or another woman that could come alongside and help out in that capacity. And again, a life coach with somebody who has been through the same dynamics of what you're navigating can be a really good resource. And that's something that I am available to help out if anybody's interested in that. The third thing is external pressure. You know, there is a lot of societal expectations. You know, I've run across this, that I'm in my 50s now. I'm going to be 57 next month. And, you know, what's wrong with you? You're single. Or, you know, what happened that you were in a 20-year marriage, and what happened? Like, people are just like curious about that. And it just really bugs me that they have no right to know. I mean, new people, unless I want to share that, but I think there's a lot of societal expectations. Like, I've met a lot more single women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And it's like, what's wrong with them? Why aren't they married? And, you know, nobody ever comes from, hey, that must have taken some courage for that person, and how can I come alongside? I don't really see that happening as much. And I'm very thankful for the other single women who've been in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who have come alongside and loved on, and we've been able to talk about that. But there are a lot of societal expectations to be married, to be partnered up. And if you aren't through the holidays and other things, what's wrong with you? So I think that, you know, societal expectations can play another whole role in who we're trying to be. There might be family pressure. You know, I don't know what each and every one of you are walking through, but family pressure, you know, I know it was like, well, you've been married for 20 years. Why can't you just stick it out? And, you know, my mom and dad have been married for 57 years in a very toxic relationship. And I don't even know why they're married. But, you know, for me, I'm just not going to put up with that. I'm worthy. And the shit that was going down in my marriage, I just had enough. And I needed to get out for my mental health. And I also needed to get out for my own physical health and what I was walking through medically. And again, we may be comparing ourselves to others. I know for me around the holidays, I'm like walking around, I'm like all single, going on 5.5 years, and everybody's all partnered up. And I see that and I get sad, you know, that I'm not in relationship. So all of those things, societal expectations, comparison to others, family pressures, that all can really help us to feel inadequate and be more confusing to us. You know, we desire something, but this is what we're walking right now. And all of that just can put us into a lower expectation, having blues and not sure and confusion and having anxiety about all of that. And we really need to shift the narrative to defining life and how we want to live on our own terms. And that does take a bit of layered healing to be able to do that, to be like, you know, I'm single, I'm okay, I'm doing life on my own. I don't care what anybody else has to say if they're looking at me or doing whatever. I'm cool with it. Like on my worst day, whenever I get down on all of that, I'm glad I'm not married to him anymore. I'm glad I made that choice to leave. And really doubling down on those days when I'm really kind of feeling inadequate or confused or don't have that life direction or where I want to go, is just like, you know what? I didn't want to live like that, and I made a choice to leave. And, I know that sometimes that, you may have been the one where the ex-spouse left. And, how can you find a way in all of that to make it on your worst day? What is your narrative? What are you going to tell yourself on that? To go through and really assess what was going on in your marriage. And I bet that things were off for a very long time. And especially with narcissistic abuse, and how long did we put up with bad behavior, and how long did we not call out things? So again, to shift the narrative with the external pressures is just, we have to define success on our terms. Like, we have to really walk our life according to our beliefs, our values, and standards. Like, with this whole clarity, if we have clarity in all of that, the external pressure kind of goes away. And so we can align with our authentic self and continue to do that. Like, for me, I really want to have one of those vans, like van life. And, I'm like rethinking that whole thing. Like, maybe it's a regular van that I do and build out. It's not a Sprinter van, but that's something that I want to do. And I don't need a partner. It would be nice to have a partner, but how can I do that for myself? And how can I still live a viable life? And I was having a great conversation with another coach friend. Her name's Stephanie. And she really brought something to my attention. I'm going to be 57. And she said, with life expectancy, and again, I have a lot of health challenges, so I don't expect that I'm going to live to 100. So that would be 67, 77, 87, 97. That would be 40 years. And, I don't know what my health condition is going to be in 20 years, but she was talking about 20 summers. And, I'm 57, so I would be 77 in 20 summers. And what do I want to do in my 20 summers? And it could be 20 winters or whatever that is, or 20 years. Like, when we start looking at life, then when I'm 58, I'm going to have 19 summers. And so we start counting back. And I don't want to live a life where I have regrets or things that I haven't done because I didn't have a partner. There's some things that are really, important to me, and I'm going to continue to do them. And that is planning a trip to Italy. I'd like to go to Tuscany, Italy, and I want to plan that trip. So I'm going to do it whether I have a partner or not, and looking into travel agencies that do trips with single people or single ladies. There's also highly sensitive traveling groups or whatever that have less than 20 people that go on a trip. So how can I tap into that and live a well-balanced life that encompasses my values, my standards, my beliefs, and what I want to do in life? So, throwing out all of that external pressure, like a lot of people have said when I've gone on trips, well, you're single, you shouldn't be traveling. It's dangerous out there. Well, it's dangerous for a couple to travel. And why should I be singled out in any way? Sure, I have to take extra precautions, but I can do that. And I can still travel, and I have traveled, and I won't let that hinder me in any way. So we do have to shift that paradigm on external pressures, and how much time are we going to spend being under that pressure cooker, the same pressure cooker that we had in our marriage for expectations, and now we're going to let society define what we want to do. We just have to push in on that. So we do need to challenge our external expectations and how we might be holding ourselves back by what other people think, and how do we hit the gas with all of that. So we talked about external pressures. The fourth one is mental health challenges. And, again, when you're going through divorce recovery and narcissistic abuse recovery, there is a lot of anxiety and there is a lot of depression, and it can really be a different set of lens for you of how you see life. You're going to think, if you're in that deep depression and grief, with that lens, you're going to think that the rest of my life is going to be like that. And it's just a time frame that's going on right now. And your whole life isn't going to be depression. Your whole life isn't going to be anxiety. This is just a couple of layers that we need to get through, and it's understandable with what is shifting in your life. And it can really, in this time, to be able to shift the narrative on mental health challenges and feeling lost, we can seek professional help. Again, getting a therapist, a life coach, a personal trainer, a mentor, a ladies group, something else that will help you look at life in a different way. And I highly recommend divorce care. If you have not heard of divorce care, I have to say it is one of the number one things that I did for myself that I wished I had done sooner. And divorce care is a 13-week curriculum that is offered at churches in your local area. You do not have to be a believer to go to divorce care. They accept anybody who is going through divorce. And there is a 13-week curriculum that meets in person, and you go through a book. So the cost to you is $22. And you get to be around other people who are navigating divorce. And I really wished I went to divorce care in year 3 of my healing, and I really wish that I knew it was available in year 1 or 2. And I have met friends through that. So that was really very important to understand that I wasn't alone. And also hearing some of the stories of the other people. Like one of the groups, I was a facilitator for it. And in one of the groups, 80% of the women in that particular group were healing from narcissistic abuse. And there were 30 people in that class, and there were like 12 women who, and I had just stepped forward. So God put me in that position to be able to help these women, that they started to hear my story, and then they started to hear other stories. And so that became a really good springboard for everybody in that group to be able to move forward. So mental health professionals are available at this moment. It can provide support, different coping strategy and guidance through different times. Support groups are good, and also having a life coach or a personal trainer can also help. Sometimes we are stuck in our own head, and we just need somebody else to kind of be the needle on the record to skip it over, or sometimes we are walking so much in our own rut that we need a little bit of help to get out of the rut. So it's okay to reach out for help, and I see you. So the 5th one is isolation. We are feeling disconnected from others, and we don't have a support system. Like for me, I had no support system when I left my marriage. I mean, basically, I walked away from friends, from family, from everything with all of that. So I didn't really have a support system, and I felt very low. I felt very alone and lost and lonely. And, how could this be? How could this be? I'm such a person who likes to connect with people. And yet I found myself for 2 or 3 years really isolated, and no one checked in on me. That's the other thing is you're going through this divorce, you're going through narcissistic abuse recovery, and it's like you've got the plague. And you've got some really bad disease that nobody really wants to be around until you pop up again. And I'm just like, wow, it happened in church groups too. I was part of this other church, and not one person reached out to me to be like, hey, Denise, how are you? And a year and a half later, when I popped up at a different church, they're like, oh, I really meant to check in and see how you're doing. And I called that person out. I was like, that's bullshit. So I understand that you may be feeling isolated and sad and bluesy, and all that just really compounds to feeling lonely and feeling lost. And so another way for you to shift is to look at social connections and pushing yourself to do those social connections. And I can't stress that enough. That's something that I really wish that I had done sooner and faster, and really had more courage to do, was those social connections. Because it's not like you go to a place and then instantly it's like poof, you have a friend. I mean, you have an acquaintance, And, it takes time to build friendships, and it takes time to build those connections with people. And so, we do need to step out of our own way, even if we're in isolation, to get out of our comfort zone, to get out of that fear zone, to go do something different. And I found it to be very helpful to do that through my church. I met a social group through my church, a ladies group that I could go to Bible study and just be undone. And those women loved on me. So I don't know what that means for you, but it could be doing some recreation, a sport. That could be a good way. It could be going to the gym. It could be, finding other ladies groups like crafting groups or other groups that meet. There's a lot of things on isolation, and it is okay to be okay on your own. But when you are knowingly not pushing outside your comfort zone to develop, that can really hold you back. And the last thing is fear. Thank you. Anyway, the last one is fear of failure. And, there are, as we get older and we're making choices, we don't have the runway of making bad choices as we age. We have less of a runway. If you make a poor financial decision when you're 20, you can, brush it off. But when you're in your 40s and 50s, getting to retirement, you have a lot less runway to be able to navigate anything that goes awry. But again, when we make wrong choices, we learn through all of those. And all of these, if we do have fear of making wrong choices, they can paralyze us and be hesitant of taking any steps forward. And I don't know anybody who's had a gilded life that's everything's been successful, that we are going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes talking to people or thinking that they might be friends or acquaintances. We have to get our radar in our life. We have to hone our radar as we move forward in this healing. And so we do learn from our mistakes, and it's okay to make a mistake and own that decision. And again, having that thing of making decisions is a growth mindset, is that we can understand where we went awry with that setback and make it part of the learning process so that we move forward. And I just want to say, with lack of clarity, life transitions, external pressures, mental health challenges, isolation, and fear of failure that we just talked through on this video, that I see where you're at. And I have just provided some recommendations to change your paradigm on each one of those. And it's okay to explore your feelings. It's okay to seek guidance from other people. And again, it's okay to take small steps towards self-discovery to really figure out where you want to go. And again, I kind of think of this time as being like trial and error, like a science experiment, or kind of like finding those perfect pair of jeans that you want. You have to try on a lot of pairs until you find that one that fits you, and then you buy 10 pairs. But in this whole healing process, it's the same thing. We don't know what we don't know until we try it. And I just want to let you know that I see you. And if there's anything that you need clarity on, or you want to explore whatever else, I'm always available to access, or if you need a resource or something else, please reach out to me. I'm here. I've been through this myself, and I just really am passionate about helping other women. And it's taken me 5.5 years to get where I am right now. And I want to help women shorten that healing cycle by sharing what I've learned and sharing what's helped and what hasn't helped on my healing journey of recovering from narcissistic abuse and divorce recovery. So I hope this has been helpful to just talk through these different issues and how to change the mindset, with life transitions. We have to be adaptable, and with external pressure, how do we challenge those expectations from society and friends? And with mental health challenges, how do we seek professional help? And how do we have different coping strategies? And how do we build resilience in this transition in our life? And isolation, how do we build connection with our social network? And how do we step out of fear? And how do we have that growth mindset so that we can live the life that we want to live and write a beautiful second book of life? So thank you, ladies, for watching today. And if you have any questions, drop me a DM or whatever. And I look forward to carrying on the conversation. And I hope you have a great day today. Take care. Bye-bye.